Hi everyone, it's Sir Rithkin and Antir, and I'm here with Duke Adhemar from Meridies. He's been king 3 times of Meridies, and he was an unbelted king. So it'll be a different story tonight. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to talking to him because, you know, in my kingdom, I don't think we've ever had an unbelted king, like ever. It's just not done. If you win crown, you get knighted. So we usually start these things with your origin story. So if you want to tell us your origin story, where you found the SCA, when, why, all that kind of stuff, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. Pretty easy. I was a pretty, well, I don't think any of us were normal teenagers, if there is such a thing, but I used to box at our county rec department's boxing gym, and our SCA practice at the time was around the corner from that. So we'd pass by every week, and I always thought that was cool. And my mom is super supportive, and she was like, yeah, that'd be perfect for you. So stopped by one night, and for those listening out west and here in Meridies, they're very familiar with Duke Trelawn. That was who I actually got my start with. I was very fortunate to get my start with somebody who had the resources to get me an armor and the knowledge to teach me how to fight too. So I was very lucky to start off with somebody who at many times in his career was considered one of the best fighters in the SCA. So a very strong start, very fortunate to have that. I would not be here without him, his training, and his friendship. So yeah, I got started when I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore in high school and haven't looked back. It's been a load of fun. It's certainly shaped my life, and wouldn't not have the SCA.
So you were already working out at a boxing gym at 15 years old?
Yeah, at the time I was boxing, swimming, and playing baseball. So I boxed when boxing was year round, so I could do that whenever I had the free time. And then the swimming and baseball schedules only had a little bit of overlap. So I had those too. And right before baseball season, I could do a couple of months of track. So for 2 years in high school, I ran track too. So I was very, very active in high school.
So I was a swimmer too. What were your events?
Freestyle, and that's it. That's the only thing I could do well. I was pretty bad at everything else.
Cool. So 15 is early. Were you able to get in armor that early? Because back then, I think the fighting age was 14.
It depended on the kingdom too. So technically, I don't think I could fight adults until I was even 16 here in Meridies. So a lot of unofficial backyard practice kind of stuff. And Duke Trelawn, having been king 6 times, Prince 3 times, once in Antir, funny enough. He had 3 sets of his own armor. He could just put it on us new guys, and he had a shop. So we'd build bits and pieces as we went along. We acquire a helmet, and in a year or two, we all had complete kits that we built ourselves. With helmets being the large exception, because those are a big challenge to build. But yeah.
Cool. So Trelawn pretty much was your mentor at first, and he got you an armor.
Oh yeah, 1000%. I mean, I spent a solid 2 years training with him. We fought twice a week. Went to the gym. I mean, he was all about being the best that you could be. Having been king 6 times. And hey, sorry, that's my dog.
That's fine. What kind of dog? That's a big bark. What kind of dog do you have?
He's an Irish setter and poodle mix. His name is Bark Vader. He's
Bark
precious.
Vader. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so spent a good 2, almost 3 years training with him, and I wanted to go somewhere in the country before I went off to college, because I was, I think most high school seniors, they're ready to do something else besides school. So I hopped up, and Trelawn lined me up with one of his old squires that was at the time, and still obviously, a knight and a laurel of Atenveld. So I moved to Phoenix with everything I could fit in my Honda Civic, and I lived in Sir Mikolos's library for almost a year before I moved home. And while I was in Atenveld, I mean, oh my goodness, in Phoenix especially, you could fight 5 days a week if you wanted to. There were 90 people at fighter practice and merchants on Wednesday. Private practices that were in the 50 to 60. A big practice in Meridies is 8-9 fighters. So to have 60 people, 8 dukes, 20 knights at a practice was monumental for somebody trying to learn and grow and develop their skills. So I also met Count Dennis of the Titans and trained with him in the gym. He was a power lifter and taught me how to lift and support SCA fighting because he had kind of tweaked this workout routine specific for fighters that was easy on the joints and produced good results. So yeah, I moved to Arizona, Atenvelt, to learn how to sword fight. I worked odd jobs and got along and came back and went to college and been a Meridies ever since.
That's super cool. So it was just like a field trip for sword fighting.
Yep, I lived,
That year.
slept, ate sword fighting for 8 months.
Wow. So you were what, like 18?
Yeah, I think I'd made the trip when I was 17 and I turned 18 that August. So
Okay. So I'm always interested in like your work ethic and like what you were putting in when you were building your foundation. So what was a typical week for you when you were hanging out in Atenvelt?
like it is here still, and that's kind of the foundation that I learned in Atenvelt that I kept going here. We always fought twice a week, and I was always very active in high school. So that twice a week metric always seemed like a good value to hone on your skills because most people fight 1 day a week. So if you really want to go the extra mile, if you can fight twice a week, if you have the opportunity to, absolutely do it. Get your Pell work in, but fighting twice a week and in the gym 3 days a week. So I would work out at the gym the days I wasn't fighting. So that's 5 days a week of pretty strenuous physical activity. And that's kind of been my mantra ever since. Coronavirus pandemic aside, that's still what I'm doing. I mean, I'm still working out at the gym 3 days a week. Everybody's sanitizing their equipment, but we're obviously not having much in the way of fighter practice or events either. So that's always been kind of the hallmark and advice that I give to anybody who wants to be the best they can. If you want to get there fast, you need to do the work because whether it's getting the job done, you can do it in 5 years, you can do it in 2 if you want to become a good fighter, or you can do it in 10 or 15. Everybody's path can be very different. Whether or not you want to put the work in, obviously natural talent comes into play, athleticism. There's a lot of facets to it, but there's nothing that replaces seat time or time in your hat, time fighting people, time explaining, time studying. You still have to put the effort in. You're not going to get that master's degree without studying. And you're certainly not going to get knighted or become an excellent fighter without putting in the work.
What kind of things do you do at the gym? Because people are always interested in like what they should focus on. What do you do?
So what we focus on, and this is going all the way back to when Dennis of the Titans trained me in Atenvelt. He wanted you to enjoy working out so that you didn't get burnout. He wanted you to do it safe and something you could repeat and not damage your body at the same time. So for lack of a better term, the workout is kind of a push-pull workout routine, and we work out arms, legs, and core each workout, which is a little strange. A lot of people do, arms one day, legs the next day, cardio, and a mix-up of the others the other day. But it's a full arms, full legs, full core workout 3 days a week, which makes that day of rest in between kind of mandatory, even though I usually fill that slot with fighting. Your muscles need the rest to recover and heal because without that, you're not doing any good with your workout. So my routine is fairly low impact. I do some Olympic lifting, a lot of free weights, trying to maximize and engage muscles in a very effective manner. It's very science-based, looking into exercises that were worth it and not, and the exercise routine has changed over the years. But I'm in and out of the gym and like 35, 40 minutes and I'm ready to puke because I'm not stopping. I'm doing everything, arms, legs, core, back and forth for 3 different sets. And it really, really kicks your butt. But at the same time, I think because you're in and out so fast, it's not so painful to go back because you're not spending an hour and a half at the gym like some people like to.
Yeah. Do you do cardio as well?
I don't do as much cardio as I used to, and I don't have a not catty explanation for that. I have done a fair amount of jump roping. I used to run before I got a lot of arthritis in my left knee from a fighting incident. Running my knee doesn't like it a whole lot anymore. But my heart rate during the workout that I do is about 150 beats a minute for 20, 30 minutes. So to me, I figure that's a pretty good cardio engagement, even without actually, purposefully doing cardio.
And are you a Pell work proponent as well?
Absolutely. And the value that I find in Pell work is really two main things. Um, Honing in accuracy, I think, is one of the most pivotal things you can do on a Pell. Having, like, I've got electrical tape stripes on my Pell, and I want to be able to throw all of my shots specifically to those pieces of electrical tape, which are narrower than a sword. But if you can center your shots on those pieces of electrical tape, you'll have no problem hitting that gap on somebody's defense. So accuracy is definitely the first thing I use the Pell for. And then the second thing I use the Pell for, which is probably somewhat unconventional from when I talk to people, I like to use the Pell to kind of use a mind exercise in how I might fight and develop shots and techniques. So in my mind, I'm looking at throwing a body fake or something at my non-moving Pell, thinking about how somebody may respond and where I would respond in kind. And so I'll kind of develop combos and techniques on the Pell, and then I go try them at practice and see if they work. But most of my Pell work is, I don't treat the Pell as a workout. I treat it as a refining tool. If I'm going to go fight in a tournament, I want to make sure I can shoot that gap on all my basic shots. And that takes 10, 15 minutes. And for me, and I'm assuming a lot of other people, 10, 15 minutes on the Pell is enough to sharpen up my accuracy by, double. If I haven't fought in a little while or haven't hit the Pell in a little while. It's a really good honing technique to get that muscle memory shapened up prior to a tournament.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by feeling like they have to do like an hour of Pell work every day. And it really isn't about doing that much. It's about consistency and just getting your consistent time in continually.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think more than 10 minutes on the Pell is a waste.
Yeah.
Most of the time. I think 5-10 minutes to kind of fine tune your stuff, and then slow work and developing, weird techniques and footwork working around your Pell. I mean, that is enough to kind of get your gears moving.
So let's go back. When you first started with Trelon, when you were a teenager, which I'm always a little jealous when I talk to somebody who found the SCA when they were a teenager, but just because, fighting earlier would have been funner, right?
Right. Yeah, I wish I found it when I was 12.
Right. So did you start out with Sword and Shield?
Yes, and Trelon at the time and still does use like a 2-foot by 3-foot heater shield. My shields are dramatically smaller now. My center grip is 21 by 30, like it's much smaller, and it's a kite, so it doesn't have the heater corners on the bottom. And even my regular strap shield, which I don't even fight with much anymore because I like the center grip so much. But Trelon and his whole household is strapped heater shield through and through. So yeah, primarily it's been strap shield. I'd say at this point, even still, with all the fighting I've done with the center grip lately, that 99% of my lifetime fights have been with a strapped kite or heater of some kind.
And are you a right-hander or a left-hander?
I'm a righty.
You're a righty. Okay.
I'm a righty. But I can throw a wrap left-handed, which is the most important thing that any right-hander should know, is how to throw a wrap left-handed. And a thrust. The left-handed thrust actually got me my last crown win. I should have gotten beaten in this fight, and I got armed, and I had my left hand. That's all I had, and he had everything. And I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? It's a small fighting tourney. I can't run around a lot, so I just boop right in the nose, and the fight reset, and we got to fight it over again. So practice with your left hand. It's very important.
Yeah, and don't tell people like that you hit them flat or whatever. Like, fight one-handed at practice and get used to it, because when it happens in a tourney, you're not going to be able to do that.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep.
So what made you switch from a strapped shield to a center mount?
I wanted to do something different. And I know that the center grip shields kind of open up some more offensive opportunities. They certainly change the dynamics of your defense going in. I'm still not sure the kite shield's my best fight, but I certainly enjoy fighting with it more. I like the mobility. I like the lack of weight. I don't like how punishing the center grip shield is on my shoulder. The strap shield is a lot more friendly to my shoulder. I've never, knock on glass here, never had trouble with my shoulders at all in 15 years of fighting twice a week and going to the gym until I started fighting with the center grip. And that could be more of a me thing, but so now I have to kind of switch out and make sure I'm managing that.
So when you first started as a teenager,
Vader.
did
Sorry, I think I'm gonna put
No,
him in his
it's
crate real quick. Hang on.
okay. Yeah, sure.
All right, buddy, come here. Okay. Okay, I think he gets the idea. He knows he's in trouble.
Mine is right under my feet, so I get
Yeah,
it.
he will be in a minute, but we just came in from a walk and he's very excited that I'm talking to somebody. So he's very spunky.
Okay, so I forgot what I was talking about.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yes. No. When you first started, did you have dreams of like taking the path to knighthood, or was it about being the best fighter you could be? What was your sort of goal? Are you a goal person?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a goal person, but not probably in the type A personality, like here's my goalposts and I want to cross those kind of way. Um, and I think at 15, your goals are a little different than when you're an adult, right? They might be a little more lofty or idealistic or romanticized. And for me, before I ever swung a rattan sword, I was a huge fan of A Knight's Tale. So to me, that was what becoming a knight was. It was about, you know, rising against odds and persevering as a person of character. And to me, that's what I wanted to be was a knight. And at 15, it was like, oh, it's really simple. You just become a good fighter and you get knighted. That's how it happens. Some guy just decides you're a knight. I obviously found out that's not quite how it works. But that is what it is. So at 15, that was definitely my outlook.
Okay. In Meridies, is it culturally? Does everyone enter crown, or do you only enter crown if you want to win? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I do. So in Meridies, I would say it's a little bit of both. For the most part, I would say people are encouraged, or our culture is, if you don't want to win, don't be in the tournament. So there's that. And there's certainly a few out there who just want to go have fun in the tournament and they know they aren't going to win. But Crown is taken very, very seriously here. And I would say at some level, people are probably discouraged from being in the tournament unless they have the capacity and ability to manage a reign.
Did you fight all through college? Did you take any kind of break?
Yeah, I always practiced during college. I didn't attend as many events as I could have in college, but I worked a lot of weekends waiting tables while I was in college. So I did not event a lot in college. I would usually hit kind of our major events, Crown List, and some of our bigger wars. And I went to Estrella War a few times in college. I'd go to Gulf Wars every year. So my eventing was fairly minimal in college. And then I started fighting in Crown the first Crown List after I graduated from college.
And do you have a routine or a mental workout that you do to get ready for attorney day?
Not really. It's hard to explain. The first Crown List where everything kind of clicked as far as like that tournament mentality, it's really kind of an intangible thing, and I hate trying to convince people that this is what should work for you, because I think it's different for everybody. For me, it's mostly just clearing my mind. The more clouded my mind is, the less well I fight. So the more I'm focusing on just fighting well and not focusing on other things, and I'm not even sure it's even focusing on fighting well. I would just say it's that I don't have any distractions, because that's what training is for. If you have your training done, you have that fine-tuned accuracy that we talked about earlier, all the puzzle pieces should fall into place as long as you don't have those distractions blocking the ability for you to fight well. Because, and Duke Adhemar of Eight Belts, formerly of Meridies, gave me a very, very good piece of advice one time. And it was that fighting to win is not going to win fights. That's not how you win fights. Winning is a byproduct of fighting well. So what do you have to do to fight well? That's manage your footwork, control the fight, the engagement, don't overexpose yourself. That's how you win, is by fighting well. So I try and remind myself of that when I go into a fight. And that seems to be what works for me.
Do you have a way for you to make yourself clear your mind? Like,
Yeah. And I tell my consort and household, especially the day of the tourney, I want no conversations. Like small talk is one thing, but I don't want to get into some deep conversation or have somebody come, distract me for 10 minutes of the conversation about their dog or the tournament or whatever. Those are the biggest things. It's certainly the day of. um, and I think this is something that's different for everybody. But for me, I just focus on clearing my mind and maybe processing stresses and getting them out of the back burner so that I can focus on the tournament.
How do you bring back your focus after, maybe a bad fight?
It's really hard. A really bad fight, I think for a lot of people, it's kind of an on switch. But there are times where that focus is lost. Like, say somebody doesn't call your shot, or that's on them. Um, Somebody says something to you that upsets you, didn't like something you did, your armor broke. Those are a lot of things that kind of cause me to lose my focus. And the easiest thing to do is just to digest it, move on, get back in the game. A lot of things that I probably picked up in. It's probably how I handled things in baseball and swimming. When things didn't go well, was just to shrug your shoulders and move on. Don't linger on something that causes you not to do what you're supposed to.
So how many crowns did you fight in before you won your first one?
I won the third one that I fought in.
Okay.
I did horribly my first one. I didn't even. We had like every crown list is very different in Meridies, and this particular list had a qualifying Robin tourney before the final 16.
Okay.
And I didn't even make it out of that. And everybody was so shocked. Like the crown came over and was like, Adhemar, you look great out there. I'm so sorry you didn't make it. Everybody has a hard time their first crown. I had sympathy left, right, and center. I was broken up about it. I was beating myself up. And kind of a similar result, I think the second time. I think I might have gone 1 or 2 rounds deep. And at the time, everybody was shocked. Like, man, Adam's a great stick. When he figures it out, it'll be great. And sure enough, that third time, I don't think I took a loss the entire tourney. And I think I was in the semifinals and somebody finally pointed it out to me like, hey, man, do you know you're in the semifinals? And I was like, what? Yeah, you're waiting on the losers bracket to round out so you can get your fight.
That's always the best kind of day when you don't realize where you are.
Right.
So do you think you put too much pressure on yourself in the first 2 crowns, or?
Oh, definitely. That's a good question because I definitely did. I went into my first 2 expecting that I would go deep into the list. I'd show some Night Zeus boss. I really thought highly of myself and thought I'd do really well. And I just, I guess I just psyched myself out. I was too tense, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I definitely had really high expectations going out there because, I knew I was athletic and had a quick stick. I thought I'd do decent. So, to go 0-2 was really crushing.
Right. And you've been fighting a long time. You start at 15. What is that? Like almost 8 years?
Yeah. So I think my first crown I fought in, I was 23, 24. So yeah, 8 years or so that I've been fighting and fighting a lot. I'd never stopped fighting twice a week.
So, what felt different for you in that third crown?
Well, it was a foggy day, and that kind of describes, I think, how I felt the whole day, and not necessarily the fog, but like the cool, kind of misty environment that we were in. The weather was actually really nice. It was hot and humid, but the cloud cover was really good, and it was a little foggy. But I felt really cool and calm, and I think for me, that's what is the recipe for success in tournaments. For me, is just keeping it collected, and not sweating the small stuff.
Yeah. Are you one of those people that fights in between rounds, or do you chill?
No, I'm very much at this point, I don't even like warming up before a tournament. I just want to go in because if I'm planning on winning a crown tournament or want to do really well in a crown tournament, I've done everything that I should have done for the tournament leading up to it. I shouldn't need a warm up. I shouldn't need a tune up. I shouldn't, need to keep things going or fight in between rounds. That's not how I like to play. If I'm there, it's because all my cards are right where they're supposed to be, and I'm going to go out and lay my cards out, and I'm going to win. So that's kind of my recipe. Is just calm, cool, collected, do what I'm supposed to do, get on the field, get off the field. Very, very, very cut and dried.
Interesting. So you don't even need like the warm up to like just warm up your muscles, or?
I wouldn't say I need it, or don't need it. I'm not sure, because I think I have one bad experience with warm-ups that kind of threw me off. So I've been a little leery about them ever since. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm still a little on the
That's
fence
fair.
about it, but I feel like I do better if I'm just keeping my mind where it's supposed to be.
All right. Makes sense. What role does your consort play on tourney day for you?
Oh, a big one. I mean, to not be too cliche, the first thing they are is an inspiration. I mean, if you aren't inspired by the person you're fighting for, I don't think you have a chance to win the tourney. Because that's what the tournament's all about. They're your biggest cheerleader. It's the person that if you win, you have to work with, in Meridies' case, for 11 months. You got to work hard with that person to be heirs, to promote a good image, get your garb together. It's a lot of work and effort that goes into it, and it's a big deal. So I think your consort plays a huge role in your confidence. Not necessarily just at being the cheerleader type, but it's more who they are that's sitting on the side of the field that's going to potentially be with you for the months moving forward. All those pieces matter long before the tournament day.
Right. So tell me about this 11 months. Do you guys have crown like right after the king and queen step up?
So it rotates a little bit. One of our reigns, the heirs are 5 months, and the other one I think it's 4 because we moved the tournament to Memorial Day. But both reigns are 6 months. So you're without heirs for a month or 2, depending on the reign.
Wow.
So yeah, it's basically coronation, and you're planning for crown list already.
Wow. Okay. I love hearing all the inner kingdom anthropology. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it is really cool. It is really cool. Except the West, they're weird with their 3 reigns.
Well, but it's short.
Yeah, it is short. No, I do love my Westies. I got a lot of Western friends. The Sir Mikolos that I lived with in Atenvelt, he's a Westie count now. He actually won crown in the West. A lot of good friends in the West. Beautiful kingdom.
Yeah. What is his real name?
John Pliska.
Yeah, Pliska. I'm like, I know this guy.
Yeah. Because if you've met Pliska, you're never going to forget him.
Okay. So how big are the lists usually in Meridies?
They're usually fairly consistent. I would say average is about 30, 35. Big ones are 40 to 50 is probably the biggest one I've seen. And then on some years, really small ones are 15, 16, but that's pretty uncommon. I would say most are at minimum 25. So 14, 15 is really small for us.
Okay. And have you reigned with the same consort each time?
A different one each time, actually. Okay. My first one was my good friend Sorka, Heron Chaser. She's a countess. She lives in Birmingham. The second one was my ex-wife, and she still lives here in Carrollton, where I do. And the third one was my squire brother's wife, Gwenifar, who's a household friend. We've known each other forever. And when I wanted to fight again, she was the best first choice. She's fabulous and has been a tremendous queen. And I hope I have the opportunity to make her queen again someday, because she'll have the experience that she had from the first time around. And I'm excited to see what she'd do with that her second time.
So tell me about reigning the first time as an unbelt.
Oh, it was an absolute disaster.
Okay.
It was an absolute disaster. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I learned a lot of lessons out of it. And I think there were a lot of expectations and assumptions that I took good stock in, both domestically and from some of my experience with Trelon, being from Atenvelt, and the friends that I'd made in Atenvelt too. And I did not quite appreciate how big culture differences were kingdom to kingdom at the time. So my outlook was not, at least not fitted to my situation at the time being an unbelted crown. I think had I been somebody else, probably could have gone differently. But I did not do things the way they probably should have been done my first reign. And I look back on them as a big lesson in how to build relationships and get things done. But yeah, it was a very interesting reign.
So was that because you weren't familiar with the traditions, or you had a vision, or?
No, I definitely had a vision of how I wanted things to be, and that was definitely counter to our kingdom's culture. And I still firmly believe this too, and I've made it pretty public on my Facebook and in my subsequent reigns that the data is fairly clear that it's taking longer and longer to become a peer in every kingdom, not just Meridies. The average time to go from AOA to peer has grown from 3 or 4 years in the 70s to closer to 15 years now. And at some point we have to reflect and decide, is that the new normal? We should accept that? Or is the organization, has the pendulum swung too far on the time it takes to become a peer? Sorry.
No, it's
Later. Hey. Later. Hang on a second.
he has to go take care of Bark Vader. So he's using his Jedi mind tricks or something.
I'm so sorry. That's my friend who said he was going to come over earlier.
It's fine.
And knocked on the door. So it's his job to entertain the dog now.
Excellent. Okay, so we were talking about how long it takes to get to peerage, and from my interviews with I think you're like 40 or something. Like I've interviewed a lot of people already. You're right. Like in the 70s, sometimes it was a year or 2 years. And some of my friends who have gotten knighted in the last couple of years, it's been like 20 years.
Yeah.
And some of that's because they aren't as disciplined or dedicated, but you're very disciplined and dedicated. And it still took you what, like 15 years?
Yeah, just about. Let's see. I think this year made 1 year. I don't know. This year's been so crazy. So right. Yeah, 15 years. Yeah, 15 years. And I know my path in particular is very unique, so I'm certainly not the example. And there's always going to be outliers. So when me and some friends looked at the data, both here and in other kingdoms, we thought the best metric to use was time to get AOA, and that metric's changed too. It used to take people 3-4 years to get their AOA. Some people get it in 6 months now. I mean, some people still takes 10 years to get their AOA because, they're just a, under the radar kind of person. So, that metric isn't perfect either, but it's what we had. And I still think the trend is bothersome that the average from AOA to peer has gone from 4 to 5 years to 7 to 8. Now the average is pushing 15 years. And, is that where it's going to stop? I don't know. But the organization has definitely started to show its age, and we're making peers older and older. And that's, I'm sure, going to be a natural byproduct of people who are just in the organization for a long time. Eventually they get a peerage, and that could be some of it too. But I think unlike in the 90s, you don't see a lot of young peers walking around anymore. And that was part of my vision coming in as an unbelted king. And I was probably not the best person to do that. But that was something that I definitely hung my hat on, that it was time for things to change and for us to have younger peers participating, because I think that gave younger people something to look forward to, a goal that seemed achievable or something they can accomplish. And I've certainly got plenty of people in Meridies that disagree with me still vehemently, and people that agree with me in a big way. It's a very divisive issue, and there's no perfect answer for it. I'm not going to say I've got all the answers. I certainly don't think anyone who believes the opposite has all the answers, but we definitely need to find some common middle ground and make the SCA a better place for everybody.
Right. And I don't think that there has to be a time frame that is like that you have to take. Like everybody's path is different, right? Like
Right. Absolutely.
if you're an awesome fighter and an awesome person, there isn't any reason why you can't get knighted in 2 years. Like a friend of mine, everybody was saying he was too young, and he was like in his late 20s. I'm just, how can that be too young, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, back when some of the first knights were made, like a guy that I learned how to make armor with, Sir Sven of Andelaven, he was knighted at 16. You know, Trelawn was knighted at 17. You know, the organization has certainly changed a lot since then. So I don't see knighting people at 16, 17 to be normal anytime soon. But, you know, there are some outliers who do get knighted at 18, 19 years old. Gabe and Nick, they're Gabriel. Their name's escaping me, but there are some young guys out there.
Yeah, Zipser and Gabe.
Yes, Zipser, thank you.
Yeah, cool guys.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
And there's something to be said about knighting someone young like that who still has a lot of enthusiasm. Like those two are like the best ambassadors for the SCA with younger people, because they always take the time to talk to them. And you know, no, like a 15-year-old's not going to want to hang out with a 47-year-old, you know. Like,
right.
You know. Anyway, so I see what you're talking about. I just it's there's some sort of weird gatekeeping sometimes going on where, you know, people like, it took me 12 years, it's going to take, you know, it should take you 12 years.
Right. And I really don't think that's intentional. I just think a lot of that is, you know, just natural human behavior. And that comes full circle to my point of, as long as we can all recognize that this is what's going on, we can start to appreciate and find a solution if we deem one is needed to change things. But finding that common ground is definitely the most important thing. And that can often be the hardest thing to do, is find that common ground, because sometimes you can't.
And so the irony is, like, that was your vision, and because it didn't mesh well with your kingdom, that probably delayed your night.
Oh, absolutely, right? Absolutely. I think had I played it cool and just been, you know, there for the ride, I probably would have gotten knighted immediately after stepping down. And looking back, I mean, I don't think I would change my path for anything, because it's certainly made a reputation for myself, made a lot of friends along the way because of it. The notoriety or fame, whatever you want to call it, from my path certainly came with its negatives. There are a lot of negatives. There's a lot of people who won't talk to me anymore. And I kind of treat that the way I do things in real life. If you don't want to talk to me anymore, I'm not missing out anything. I hate that that's how it's going to be. But, you know, if we can agree to disagree on things, there's no reason we can't still have a conversation about anything and try and find common ground and mutual respect. But that's just the kind of approach I take towards everything.
And it didn't turn you off from wanting to be king again, right? Like,
no, being king is super fun. It's a lot of work. I take a lot of pride in being king. I attend every event I can. I recognize people that I think are worthy. When award letters come in and it's pretty cut and dried, this person has done the work, I ask a few people like, hey, you know, this person seems pretty awesome. Why don't they have this award? Well, because somebody hasn't given it to them. I'm kind of the yes man when it comes to being king and giving out awards. And if they haven't gotten an award in a few years and they aren't a terrible person and they've clearly put some effort towards art, sciences, or fighting, I have no qualms with recognizing somebody for their accomplishments and achievements.
What's your favorite part about being king?
I would have to say reading letters of recommendation.
Okay. Okay. Can you explain that?
Yeah. There's a lot of great things about being king, but probably the most enriching and most fulfilling is reading all of the award letters that come in and hearing about all the things that, you know, you would never hear about otherwise. You know, I play a lot of events, you know, when we have them, and there's so much that goes on that there's no way you can be present for all of it. And to hear detailed stories about things people do in their homes, a state away, that you would never know about otherwise. The charity that people have, the acts of goodwill, service, and things they do to grow the organization, it's really humbling. And it kind of reminds me that, you know, you get all the perks and shiny hats and stuff being crowned. But you're not really the one who makes the organization tick. It's those people in those letters who invite newcomers into their homes, feed them, clothe them, get them on the archery range, put them in armor, give them their first, fencing mask. Those are the people who really make the organization tick.
Cool. That's super cool. So how did you knight anyone when you reigned?
Yes, every reign. I made at least one of every peerage, I think, every reign.
So obviously you haven't reigned as a knight yet, right? So you don't have anything to compare to, but how does that feel? Like,
I guess for me and my situation might be unique. I mean, for me, it was totally normal. I mean, knighting somebody not being a knight just was normal. I usually had a hand on the sword, or a knight just did the dubbing. I did the buffet 9 times out of 10, but the dubbing had to have a knight involved per corpora rules. But yeah, for me, it was normal and just part of the process. But yeah, I think I made 3 or 4 knights my first reign. Made 2 or 3 the next one, and like 5 or 6 the last one, just for knights. But a lot of peers made. There was a lot of enthusiasm going into my second reign, so we made quite a few laurels and pelicans as well. And the Masters of Defense were around for my last reign, and I think we made 2 Masters of Defense, which was a lot of fun.
So after sitting in Shiv Council as an unbelt, you still wanted to be a knight?
Yeah. You can't. If you have a problem with or want to contribute, you can't be a part of that process unless you become a knight. It's like the guys who give it up. You can't fix it if you're not part of the process. Same thing for me, just the reverse. I can't help fix it if I'm not in there. And I think even a few of my detractors along the way said, at the end of the day, he's a 3-time unbelted king, and he's obviously a good enough fighter to be in here. And I disagree with him too. But if he's going to stick around and he's going to be, king every couple of years, we probably should include him in this and see if we can get him to see things our way. Maybe we can see things his way. So I thought that was a very mature response from people who disagree with me, to just say, he's not going anywhere. He's been a thorn in our side for 10 years. So get him in here and let's talk to him.
Did your reigns span 10 years?
No, all 3 were in about 5 years or so time.
Okay. But the cool thing is that you have ideas that you want to implement. I mean, like, that kind of enthusiasm and vision isn't something that you want to stifle, right? I mean, like, the organization shouldn't want to stifle. Like, even if it isn't the same vision as everyone else, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's not really a question, but anyway.
No problem. No, and I totally agree with you. I mean, the more varied opinions and perspectives that you have in a room, the more qualified the room is to make a decision. Because you wouldn't want 2 people deciding everything for there's 13 or 1,500 members in our kingdom. You don't want 2 people deciding who's going to be a knight. I mean, I get that too, and there's a lot more nuance to it than that. But you want a lot of different perspectives, and information is a good thing, even if you disagree with each other. Those points are all valid.
So, Valora, and we're going to totally switch the subject.
Yeah.
She wants me to ask you how you feel about vodka and Pedialyte.
Oh, we're taking questions from the audience? Okay, so
you don't have to answer that.
No, I do have to answer that because I have an opinion. I have very strong opinions. So very cheap vodka, please keep it away from me in the morning. Fine the rest of the day. I want decent vodka. It can be cheap as long as it's like, honestly, the best combination of vodka and Pedialyte that I've had was cheap pineapple vodka and some variety of Pedialyte, and it was perfect.
Why Pedialyte?
Do you don't know the context behind this story?
I don't.
Well, you don't hang out with Gabriel or Zipser nearly enough. So there's this thing, if you hang out with the guys that run the Wobbly H, called breakfast shots. And if you come around their camp and everybody's hungover, they're having breakfast shots. So that's what the Pedialyte's for, and the vodka, little hair of the dog.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So that's the Pedialyte. And it's always done separately. They're never mixed. So it's the shot of vodka and then the Pedialyte chaser.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All
They're a
right.
special crew. Your kidney has to have some character if you're gonna hang out with those guys.
They're professionals.
They really are.
Yeah. Okay. So have you taken any squares? I mean, you got knighted last year and then we sort of went into this lockdown.
Yeah, I've had conversations with a few. I've got a like foster relationship that's sort of been in the works, but like you said, with the pandemic hitting like it did, it hasn't really been a great time to get that going. And I kind of wanted to wait, 6 months or a year, make sure that everything was right. And same thing for anybody I would take on. I feel like a lot of associate and peer relationships get locked in too quickly, and it's kind of like a marriage. You don't want to get married really fast because divorce sucks a lot, whether it's actual divorce or getting a separation from your peer, because after a few years you determine that your relationships aren't cut out for each other, and that happens, and it's really, really painful, really, really ugly. And usually it means that a otherwise really qualified candidate doesn't become a peer for a few more years. So I encourage everybody to really take their time with becoming a peer, or becoming an associate to a peer, because if you're close to becoming a peer in terms of skill and courtly grace and all the other things that we look for in a peer, it doesn't matter that you've been a squire for 10 years. It just matters that you have representation. It doesn't matter that you've been somebody's apprentice for so long. It just matters that that person knows you well enough to represent you in the circle, and that they're the right person to advocate for you.
Or not advocate for you. I mean, you got to know what you're stepping into, because some peers don't advocate for their own people. It's about working. So, yeah.
And some peers advocate way too soon, and it goes over like a lead balloon, and then you've kind of muddied the waters too. So when they bring them a few years later, everybody has those painful memories from a few years ago when somebody wasn't ready. Yeah, it's tough.
I couldn't agree more, though. Like, people that collect students without giving those students a chance to decide what they need and who's actually going to work for them, it pisses me off, because you're not doing anyone a service for that. Like,
no, in a way, I feel like it's kind of selfish just to collect apprentices, squires, whatever, proteges, whatever it is, students. I do feel like it's kind of selfish, because I certainly get the appeal, like, oh yeah, I've got 6 squires, or I've got all the female squires belong to me. Like, oh, that's really cool. What are you doing for them?
Honestly, that's creepy. Yeah. When guys collect female squires, I think it's creepy, but that's
just whatever it is. I've got all the pretty squires. My knight likes to brag he has all the pretty squires. That's not necessarily the best thing, Kona. I mean, I love you to pieces, but he's funny.
We all have standards, I guess. They have to.
Yeah, we all have standards, and they vary quite a bit.
All right, so I feel like we didn't talk a lot about like your second and third reign. Were those ones better? Like, did you?
Oh, significantly. Yeah, I learned a lot the first time, obviously. The second one, I was very laid back, low key. It was my ex-wife who I was reigning with. We were married at the time with 2 kids. So we just kind of took our time. We, went to all the events we were supposed to, did all the things we were supposed to. We didn't really rock any boats or anything. We just enjoyed it, and it was a great time. And I thoroughly enjoyed that reign. Were there some things I wish had gotten done that I saw in the works? Sure. But I made peace with those things afterwards. And it was a good time. It's hard to look back on the reign and see a lot that I would change. It was kind of my opportunity to show that I could not be that guy from my first reign, and I think I did that. And then the third reign, I had a vision, I had a focus, I had a goal. I wanted to get some things done and shake things up, and I had a much better handle on how to do that and get that done successfully, and kind of minimize collateral damage in terms of that. And there's always going to be some when you rock the boat, so that's always the challenge if you're trying to be a trailblazer as a crown. When you want to do things your way and get them done, you have to really understand the weight of those decisions and the consequences that come afterwards. And I really had a handle on it, still understand everything that I did, and still paying for it. and happy to pay the price.
So
So a lot of tough decisions.
besides the age thing, what are your other sort of projects that you have, that you want to shape the SCA with? Sounds like you have ideas.
Ideas is really generous. My view of the SCA is pretty simplistic. Have fun and be kind to others and do the things you enjoy. I wish I had done more things sooner than I did. I wish I had started doing archery a lot sooner than I did. I was so focused on fighting and winning crown for so long. Now I've gotten more into sewing and archery, which I absolutely love. It's probably one of my favorite things to do is to do archery on the range, and metalworking, making armor and doing coronets, and I've even acid etched entire scrolls on brass and copper. A lot of other things I wish I had gotten more in tune with along my path rather than just being so narrowly focused.
Yeah, but you found them now, right? Like,
yeah, and I've been doing a lot of my ulterior hobbies within the SCA for probably 5-6 years pretty strongly now, and I find a lot of joy in them.
I find that fighting leads to other things. Like when you have that passion about fighting, you want to do these other cool things so that your kit can look cool, or that I don't know.
Well, and I think every fish likes different bait too. So whether it's fencing or sewing, if you get somebody hooked with the right bait, they're gonna start, exploring other waters to be funny. But yeah, I think as long as I think that's the key to the SCA is finding what each person likes or finds their drive in, whether it's fencing, cut and thrust, sewing, blacksmithing, or just being a stick jock. Whatever their joy is, you get them hooked with that, and then you start kind of molding and shaping them into a medievalist as you go along. Or not. Not everybody becomes a medievalist. I know lots of great peers even that, aren't exactly as historically concerned as I am. And I wouldn't change them for the world. They're super fun people and make the SCA great. And that's part of what, coming full circle to my ideas and vision of the SCA is we have to remember that the SCA is successful and big and powerful like it is because of how inclusive we are. It's everything pre, 16, whatever, regions, cultures, incomes, membership is cheap. All you need is a tunic. You don't have to really try that hard to come to our events. The reason that we've done so well as a 50+ year organization is because we are inclusive. And I think we just need to be reminded of that sometimes, that inclusion in the process and being part of our organization is what makes us great.
Yeah. And it makes it interesting because, when you get to hear somebody geek out about what they're interested in and you don't even know anything about it, it's just, there's something really special about that. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I guess we could look at your sword now.
Sure.
I've never been to Golf Wars. What does the King of Meridies do at Golf Wars?
A lot. We aren't the hosts anymore. We used to be before Glen Aubin split off, but we're still a principal. So the schedule is extremely busy. I can definitely understand. My first 2 reigns were air at Gulf Wars, and my last one was crown at Gulf Wars. And I just felt like at Gulf Wars especially, you just didn't have time to yourself hardly at all. The schedule was so full. It was a real challenge to feel like you were present at everything. We did a pretty good job. Me and Gwenifar kind of split duties as far as doing things at Gulf Wars, which helped tremendously. We started delegating a lot of things to other people. We had people who could handle court prep and stuff for us because we did like 6 or 7 different courts throughout Gulf Wars. So to keep all that coordinated was a real challenge. But Gulf Wars is very busy, especially as Crown as Meridies. Opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies, all the lunches and dinners and everything. It's a lot. Gift exchange.
Yeah.
But very, very busy event. As I'm sure, Estrella is for, the Crown of Eight Belt. It's also very busy.
So as somebody who obviously is a legit fighter, do you feel like you got more credibility once you got a white belt on you, or did it change anything for you?
No, I don't think it added to my credibility. I think being an unbelted crown especially after the second time. Not to be cliche, but once fluke, twice Duke.
Right.
That definitely has a lot of truth behind it. And after I'd won the second time, my fame really spread, and I'd go to Penzic, Estrella, Gulf Wars, and I would get mobbed by knights and dukes and counts from other kingdoms, wondering what the heck was going on because I've got strawberry leaves and a red belt on. And they were wondering what law I'd broken, or what heinous reason there was that I couldn't be knighted. And that got tiring after a while. That was a real challenge too. I got kind of tired of answering the question. I was just who I was. I accepted where I was. It didn't cause me a lot of frustration. I knew what I was getting myself into and why I wasn't a knight yet. So I was pretty much at terms with my situation. It was a path I'd certainly forged on my own, and like I said before, wouldn't change it. But no, the belt more to me. Even when asked about receiving it from the crown that knighted me, and a lot of knights who have asked me about it, like, why do I even want it at this point? And it really wasn't for me. That's not really, I don't think for anybody that's really what knighthood is or should be about. I think what being a knight or any peer should really be about is those who are looking upon you. What example do you set? Who are you inspiring? What does it mean for the disgruntled fighter who's been in the game for 10 years and has always felt like he was close but never gets any recognition? But then he sees these other guys who he knows, absolutely are more worthy than he is, but he sees they can't get knighted. So what does that do to his aspirations when he sees people who are clearly better than him? And everybody has those people. I've got people that I think are obviously better than me. And when I see them not being recognized, that causes my own internal struggles. So that was kind of my view when I got knighted, was that it wasn't for me. Obviously I appreciate it and I understand its weight and its value, but to me its value is much more for those who look on you than it was for me.
Cool. All right. Well, let's look at your killing tool.
All right. It's pretty simple. A lot of people from certain parts of the world will laugh at my shaved rattan. It's very thin. It's right at the legality limit. I keep a marshal's gauge handy and add tape where I need to. My swords typically weigh under 3 pounds. The plastic basket hilts that I use are right at 17 ounces. And the rattan is a little more than that after you tape it. So you're 2.5, 3 pounds by the time you get everything together. I've always pretty much fought with a 36-inch length sword, 37, 38 sometimes. Now that I've added a thrusting tip, which has absolutely changed my game the last 3 or 4 years, the swords have tended to be a little longer than they were in the past. And aside from just shaping the handle a little bit, I really don't get crazy with it. I just want something that's relatively flat. And I don't want it so small that I'm over gripping, because I actually had some issues with a muscle in my forearm going and having some problems. So I kept the handle a little wider now. And then I just use a 1 finger trigger to hang on to the sword. And that's it. Stabby, stabby. Bashy, bashy.
Cool. All right. Well, let's do the final 10. If you could fight anyone in the world, who would it be?
The one person who I've chased mercilessly and have not yet had the chance to, and that's Branos.
Yeah. Branos, he wants to fight you.
Is he watching?
I don't know. I saw Ragnvalder was on, but I haven't seen Branos.
Oh yeah, he and I, Branos and I have talked quite a bit. I actually kind of copied my current center grip is basically a Branos style shield, because everybody told me that me and Branos fight very similarly, and I should adopt his shield style and see how it works.
Do you fight A-frame?
Branos doesn't even fight A-frame. Okay. I hate when people call it that. It's quasi A-frame, but like in Meridies, A-frame is like this, like they fight like this. But Branos fights kind of high guard like I do. It's a little more set back. So it's very much a kind of a parallel sword and crossbody, tight elbows, very tight, defense rotating like this. A lot of counter punches and very, very fast high attacks. That's definitely, to me, more the Branos style. I don't think calling it A-frame is fair, and I might be alone or of a small number of people who feel that way about it. But I would say my fighting style is fairly similar in style a bit. I'm very heavy on fakes in my fighting style, a lot of body fakes, and interchanging thrusts and shots.
Cool. All right. Who would you like to see reign in your kingdom?
Oh, more than anybody, Sir Joffrey. I have finaled with him at least once. He's been in crown finals 9, 10 times.
Wow.
If anybody was, that guy that the whole kingdom wants to sit the throne, I mean, that's him. I feel like I'm far from alone in feeling that way. I fought him in the finals in the last one that I won, and I cried because I love Joffrey. He deserves to be king, and even still, I mean, even the unthinkable. I knew that Joffrey wouldn't want it any other way than for me to give him my all in the finals. No fighter who won crown would ever live it down if their opponent was like, "Oh man, well you really deserved it this time, so I'll let you have it." That would ruin anybody's day. And I had a really hard time with meeting Joffrey in the finals because I would rather have lost earlier and Joffrey, have a fight that he won in the finals, or that him just beat me. That would have been absolutely fine, just to see him reign. But I think if anybody, Joffrey is definitely the one.
All right. If you could talk stick with anyone in the world for an hour, who would it be?
Oh, Al-Anon. And I've talked stick with Al-Anon for so long already. And that guy is just a wealth of knowledge about fighting. He's taught me tons. He was probably one of 2 key people who took me to that next level in understanding fights and fight engagement to make me the fighter that I am today.
Yeah, he's amazing. I had never met him before I interviewed him, and my God, that guy has passion.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite medieval-esque or period movie?
Knight's Tale, period. Yeah, we already covered that. Knight's Tale.
I
know a lot of Scadians hate it. A lot of Scadians really don't like A Knight's Tale, but to me, that is the FCA. We are not a strict reenactment organization. We are here to have fun and a good time. And looking period, it's kind of important, kind of not at the same time. And that to me is A Knight's Tale. If I had to pick like a genuine, much more historically accurate movie, I'd probably have to go with Arn. Arn's really, really good. I've only seen it once, but it was definitely a very, very good movie.
That's why I say medieval-esque or period, because
yeah.
You gotta have fun with it. My sister said role models, so
that works.
If you could add a rule to the rules of the list or subtract one, what would it be?
Oh boy. I don't know. That's a tough one. I honestly feel like our fighting system is really, really, really good. I'm sure I could probably think of one, and I probably have before. But I'm really, really happy with the way the SCA combat conventions are.
All right, cool. What's your favorite tournament format?
I'm gonna be really greedy here. My favorite, if I ever see a list that's just like, yeah, that's it. It's the William Marshall format. Just basically a giant bear pit or giant open field, and whoever gets the most wins. It's really favorable to my fighting style, which is quick and a lot of fakes. I can go through people pretty quickly, especially out of Kingdom where they haven't seen, the trick shots I throw and things like that. William Marshalls they're a lot of fun because you get to fight a lot of different people, experience a lot of different people, learn a lot of different tricks, and you're never going to get more fights in a tournament than you are in a William Marshall.
Cool.
So a lot of fun.
I've never even participated in one, so that sounds cool.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Do you rotate, or is it like everybody in a big pit?
It's usually just an open field, and you challenge who you feel like challenging. And like for example, you get 10 coins, and if you lose, you give away a coin. Okay. And whoever has the most coins at the end is the winner. And if you run out of coins, you're done fighting.
All right, that's kind of like our Squires tourney. We just
yeah,
right.
A lot of similar formats to it. What's
your favorite event?
My favorite event probably has to be Gulf Wars. Just because the tavern the Green Dragon. The ambiance at Gulf Wars is really unique. But yeah, for big events especially, I would say Gulf Wars. For smaller events, I definitely got some other ones that I like a lot, but nobody would know what those events are.
If somebody said, "Hey, I want to go to an event in Meridies," like what's the signature event there?
It's not even the event to me at this point. We've got a night, several nights, and some squires who invested in a piece of property, and they are building a custom medieval site with castles, gates, houses, Viking longhouses, hall. I mean, it's incredible. And while the pandemic's been going on, they have been adding on and adding on and adding on, and sanctioning out land for people to build their households, Viking houses on. I mean, the ambiance, the air is unbeatable. So to me, in Meridies, it's less about what event you go to, and it's more about, as long as you go to an event that's at Dalwhinnie Fields, that's what you should go to in Meridies, because you will never, I don't care what event it is, you will never get the experience that you get at Dalwhinnie, whether there's 50 people at the event or 500.
All right, cool. If you could have any helmet in the world, regardless of cost, what kind would it be?
I have to say it's the one I own. I have not lusted after another helmet. I mean, just for argument's sake, the helmet that the Black Prince and A Knight's Tale wears, I really like his. There's a little castle gate in the door. If I could snap my fingers and have that helmet, that'd be it. But my helmet is my dream helmet, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
All right, what does it look like?
Okay, I can go get it.
Oh, it's right there.
So I made it in conjunction with Sir Ingelry. It's modeled after the one on the painting in Spoleto.
Oh, it's pretty. I love the I don't even know what to call it. The triangles on the bottom there. It's really cool.
Oh yeah, the little cutouts. So the extant, well, there's not an extant piece, but the drawing and the interpretations that have been made of it since have all had these cutouts for breathing. Yeah, it's all spring steel and pretty lightweight, and I love it. It's easy to see out of.
I was going to ask how the vision was. Vision's okay?
It's great. It's not. I would say it's 80% as good as an open bar grill.
Okay.
Because of the nose is raised away. It lets you have the oculars a lot closer. So I mean, I can see people's feet when I'm fighting them, which shocks a lot of people that I can see feet. And
the bar through the eye doesn't bother you?
Nope, it's right below the line of sight. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm looking over it like you would in a regular helmet.
Excellent. Okay, it's Saturday morning at Estrella, and several people want to talk to you about last night. What did you do?
Oh, definitely fell asleep on the table.
On a table?
Yeah, on the table, in a chair, standing up. Yeah, I'm the one who falls asleep at 10 p.m. or 2 a.m. I'm falling asleep.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't often get into trouble, aside from falling asleep.
Okay. Who's your favorite fight ever?
Oh, my favorite fight ever? Oh, God, that's a tough question. Stefan of Beckingham out of Mid-Realm. Probably one of the most fun fights. Close second, if not equally ranked, Zipser of Aitenvelt. Super fun. His brother Gabe, I mean, they're practically the same in terms of just fighting fun. That's got to be my top three. Not that you asked for it, but that's definitely it.
Who's your favorite to watch fight?
Favorite to watch fight? I'd have to say Alanon. Alanon probably my favorite to watch, just because it's such a unique fight. Nobody fights like him.
All right. And the bonus question is, who is the cleanest fighter in your kingdom?
Cleanest fighter. Man, I live in a kingdom of really clean fighters. That's one thing we definitely take pride in. We swing fast and hard, and we call just about everything. I mean, we're not a hard-taking kingdom. We throw pretty hard, but I'd say the cleanest fighter probably is Sir Joffrey. I mentioned him earlier as that one guy that everybody wants to see win crown. Yeah, he's probably the cleanest fighter I can think of offhand.
Oh, cool. Well, I really appreciate you taking your time and talking to me. This has been super fun, and
it was super fun.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Your point of view is very interesting. I love people that come in and aren't afraid to say, "Hey, there's another way we can do it." So keep doing that. That's cool.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I hope when we get back to doing events, I'll see you out west. I usually make Estrella. I've been to Great Western War once, and looking forward to going again.
This was supposed to be my first year at Gulf Wars, and
well, next year I'll see you at Gulf.
I think you were at Adult Swim when I was at Adult Swim, and we just didn't cross paths.
I've not yet made it to Adult Swim because it usually falls the same week of Estrella. Yeah, it's usually the same week of Estrella, and I like to go visit the old man Trelon
and have the Pedialyte shots.
Yeah, and have Pedialyte shots. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking to Duke James the Holy from Glenaubin.
Oh, I love him. I love him so much.
So, thank you.
He's the best.
And
thanks.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, super fun.
Bye-bye.
Good night.